Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as we're set to bring you the Sports Car Championship Canada Series presented by Michelin. And thank you for joining us live on YouTube as well as live here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So the track is still wet. If you're just joining us, we've had a pretty damp day here at the facility, but it is getting a lot brighter out there. That's the good news. The wind has picked up, but the track is still very, very wet, as the last race that just finished did show us. And we have an idea of where the cars will start leading into this second race of the weekend for the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada Series. And the GT4s, like they did in race number 1, will lead things off here for race number 2, and it will be the Ford Mustang on pole. That's Jack Polito. He did win race number 1. Demi Chalkis in the Mercedes AMG GT4. The red and white car just turning on to the circuit there, starting in second, and Marc Lafleur is in the all-black GT4. He did not make the initial start of race number 1 and managed to get the problem sorted. Came out, did a number of laps. He will start in third. Then you have another race car, and you have the second group, and it's the TCR class. This is the class with the most entries, and on pole for this one will be Dean Baker. Justin DiBenedetto will start alongside Richard Boak, LP Montour, and it's his birthday. A big happy birthday to the driver, the number 29, LP Montour in the Volkswagen. Ron Tomlinson, who had trouble in race number 1, will start 8th overall. Connor Attrell, another driver who had trouble in race number 1 in the 80, will start 9th overall. Gary Kwok, Quinn Attrell, Tom Kwok, Ed Colleen, Jocelyn Hebert, Olivier Montour, Marco Cerrone. That is your field in the TCR class. And then you go back to the TCA class, a brand new class here in 2023. And Trevor Hill will lead things off in the number 2. Jonathan Young, Megan Tomlinson, and Eric Kuntz will be your drivers in the TCA class. And that is something new for 2023. In the previous couple seasons here of the SCCC, you've had the GT4s and TCRs, which have done very, very well, but what the organizers wanted to do was create another step in that ladder, another way to get new drivers in the series, moving up from go-karting ranks, from the regional racing ranks, and that's when they introduced the TCA class. Factory-built race cars from manufacturers like Subaru, Hyundai, Mini, Toyota, and Honda. Of course, all the cars in the field here today are Honda Civics, powered by a 1.5-liter four-cylinder engine. But they are very much a race car. As a matter of fact, there's a couple for sale. The officials at FEL brought them into the country, and they have them for sale. So if you're interested in getting involved with the series, definitely go online, contact FEL Motorsports, and you can get involved in the TCA class. The TCR is the next step up from that, and these are very competitive race cars. There are 4 cylinders, they're turbocharged, front-wheel drive race cars. That makes them very challenging to drive because the front wheels do everything. You have to try not to overdrive those front tires and warm up the Michelin tires, make them stick a little bit less. So it's a really delicate balance with the TCR cars, and sometimes the drivers say it's even a little bit more effective to flip them around, to get them to slide a little bit, get that back end moving, to keep the car a little bit loose in racing conditions, and that tends to bring out the most speed out of the front-wheel drive TCR class cars. And then it's the drivers at the front of the field that will start in the first group. You have Polito, Chalkis, and Lafleur. You have a Ford Mustang GT, and you have a Mercedes AMG GT4. So those drivers and those cars, V8s, obviously, the Mercedes bi-turbo, so twin turbos, they're pushing upwards of 550 horsepower to the rear wheels of those GT4 cars. So they are the ultimate in performance in the FEL Motorsports Sports Car Championship Canada Series. And in dry conditions, They really do get going a good song, especially down the Andretti straightaway here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. In wet conditions, a little bit more of a challenge, but we can tell you that those cars, as compared to the TCR class cars, they do have adjustable ABS and traction control. So that's an added bonus for getting in the GT4, especially when you're driving in the rain. And traction control can prove to be definitely a performance advantage, because you jump on the gas when you have 550 horsepower and you have a computer sort of monitoring how much power gets put down to those wheels. It can be a benefit to those drivers. So we'll see Jack Polito, Demi Chalkis, and Mark Lafleur. Mark running in his first season in GT4. Demi as well in the second place, but Demi has been doing a lot of testing in Europe in a GT4 car, so has a lot of laps under her belt at this point. It definitely showed in race number 1. She was right there battling with Jack Polito for the race lead. And again, the story of race number 1 wasn't necessarily the conditions, it was more the cautions. Unfortunately, the race slowed for significant periods on a couple of occasions, only managed to get 14 laps in that 30-minute time session. So that was the story of race number 1. You really didn't get to see what you had as far as performance goes. So we'll see what happens here in race number 2. Looking for the pace car to pull into pit lane this time by as the field doubles up into turn number 8. And you can see it's the 3 GT4 class cars that will make their way through turn number 10. Jack Polito will be the driver in control of the start, heading towards turn number 1. And the green flag waves were underway here in race number 2 of the SCCC at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Into turn 1, Jack Polito will take that Ford Mustang into the lead. Just a couple of car lengths back is Demi Chalkis in the Mercedes AMG in second, and then Lafleur, second pace car, pulls off. Here comes the field of TCR and TCA cars through the line, and they'll charge down into turn number 1. Looked as though Baker did get the jump.
Full contact in turn number 1. The second place car is off into the tire wall. Justin DiBenedetto, contact with the driver who started in third place, and that car, once it got offline, was in trouble. That was potentially Richard Boak in the 84 who made contact on the inside in turn number 1, and the number 4 of Justin DiBenedetto is stuffed into the tire wall in turn number 1.
And we do go to the full course yellow as we look out of the announcer's booth here. That tire wall is going to have to be repaired. So under a full course yellow, the 40-minute clock continues to roll, and they're going to have to make some major repairs to the front end of that race car. You could see the tire wall all punched up, so it'll be a few minutes before we are getting set here to go back to green. It'll be a few minutes yet.
That was a brand new race car for that team coming into this season. You can see a thumbs up from Justin DiBenedetto. He is okay, which is great news. The car went in sort of on the back end side of the driver's side, and it flipped around, slid around. I shouldn't say flipped. It didn't get upside down, not by any means, but it did sort of nose into the tire wall after hitting back end first and spun a flat spin, nosing into the front. So but there is the potential. We can't see the front end of that race car, so there's the potential that the damage isn't all that bad. The back end doesn't look too bad. There's some bodywork damage just ahead of the left rear wheel, but the wheel itself appears to be pointed in the right direction, which is good news. We know that DiBenedetto is okay as the field continues to cycle through. We're under a full course caution. Again, that incident happening on lap number 1 as the driver's headed for the first turn in lap number 1. Some contact as I believe the 84, and I'm just looking through Richard Boak.
Boak's being shown down in 19th. I'm not sure if he even got out there for the start. Same with Eric Coons, the 25 car. That one of our TCA runners.
That's Boak down pit lane right now as he comes to the attention of his crew. So the 84, Richard Boak, did make contact, and it looks as though he may have either incurred some sort of suspension damage or something up, because he came very slowly around the track, and he is now along pit lane. So the only two drivers yet to complete a lap in this race, the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto for obvious reasons, in the 84 of Justin Boak.
So Coons is there. He's being shown 18th in the rundown. The last of the TCA cars, Trevor Hill, is your leader in TCA. He sits 13th. And then we've got Megan Tomlinson, car number 38, in 16th. That would be second in TCA. And then Jonathan Young, 17th overall in the 8 car. That would be third in TCA. And then Coons, 25, fourth.
You can see the cleanup crew into turn number 1 now, so they're going to try and pull this number 4 car out of the tire wall without doing any more damage to it. That's the key here. And so they'll be quick but gentle with trying to back that car out as the rest of the field comes through. And you can see the driver still trying to weave side to side. They're trying to keep as much temperature in those Michelin tires. I know it's rain tires and it's difficult to do as it's a very wet track out there still, but you want to maintain as much temperature as you can.
And of course, for the Super Production Challenge drivers that will be coming up next for their second 30-minute race here today, they're hoping that these Sports Car Championship Canada cars do a good job of drying out this racetrack. We'll get a better look here at the damage to the number 4 Audi. Doesn't look to be all that bad,
no,
considering how those tire walls were all askew as they got together here off of the green flag going down into turn number 1. So I would think maybe a few more minutes to get those tire walls back into position. Justin DiBenedetto has gotten out of the car, and now he will head back here to the paddock. Hopefully they can get that car repaired and get him out here for the third race that does not come until 3:20 tomorrow afternoon. The final Sports Car Championship Canada race of the weekend will be following the eBay Motors 200 NASCAR Pinty Series race tomorrow afternoon.
Tough to say what's broken on that number 4 car, but definitely heartbreak when you think of the big picture too of the overall championship season. A relatively short championship here in the Sports Car Championship Canada Series, and for Justin DiBenedetto, it couldn't have started off any better for that team, because in race number 1 he did pick up the win, his first ever win in the Sports Car Championship Canada Series. And so hoping for big things here in race number 2, and unfortunately failed to make it through turn number 1 even here in race number 2 as 2 cars get together into the first turn on that very first lap. But it looks like the cleanup, I saw a skid steer go over towards turn number 1, so hopefully that'll mean that the tire wall will get cleaned up fairly quickly. We'll get back to racing, green flag racing, and we'll be able to pull that caution in. As you can see, a good look at
that Chevrolet Camaro safety car still with the lights on, so we'll be under this full course yellow for at least I would think another 2 or 3 laps. You see the machinery there that is going to reposition those tire walls in turn number 1. They'll have to get that all finished before they roll these cars back out. And again, we come up on the clock here on the session, almost a quarter of a way through the 40 minutes allotted for race number 2.
Good look there at Dean Baker in the number 52. Sat on the pole, as a matter of fact, picked up the Assured Auto Group pole awards in the TCR division, and fell back a couple of positions in race number 1. Still finished on the podium, coming home in 3rd in front of a hometown crowd. Baker from right here in Bowmanville, Ontario. So he knows this track very, very well. And as a matter of fact, if you go to the Fell Motorsports Instagram page, you can watch as Baker will take you through a lap at speed here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And if you've never seen it from a driver's eye view at this facility, it is a very informative couple of minutes of video, because he'll take you through the braking, where to steer, where they're looking, and where they want to put their car to maximize speed around this racetrack, which is very, very tricky in dry conditions. In wet conditions like we have right now, it's even more so. As you can see, the 66 of Gary Kwok, and a brand new car. It's not often you can say Gary Kwok has been driving anything other than a Honda, because it's been so many years that Gary and Tom Kwok have shown up at the racetrack with a pair of Honda Civics. But this year, Gary going in a different direction, picking up an Audi RS3 and having a great run with that, coming home inside the top 5 in race number 1 in the 66. Tom Kwok still behind the wheel of the Honda Civic, and there you can see the 55 as it goes through the top of your screen. And Tom actually having a pretty good run too. So he finished in 7th in race number 1 as the cleanup continues in turn number 1. Nearly completed now, as it looks like that wall is just about put back to where it should be. But yeah, it's interesting to see that dynamic between Gary and Tom Kwok and the Audi and a Honda. No longer can they really share secrets and setup secrets anymore, because those cars are two very, very different.
Well, there is still quite a bit of heavy overcast here, but and still the odd rain cloud, but that sun trying to break through. So certainly in the next hour or so, we're going to see a lot of clearing. Service vehicles still down there in turn number 1, so we're not quite ready to let them go. We're just past the 10-minute mark, so we're about a quarter of a way through this second race, with their third event coming up tomorrow afternoon. And Polito off that green flag. It didn't take long before we went to the full course yellow, but Demi Chalkas, who was on the outside going into turn number 1, tucked right in behind Polito, and those two cars were not that far apart. So Demi Chalkas, as you're saying, coming up through the ranks, did a lot of regional racing in various cars, and she has certainly improved her driving over the last couple of years, and getting a great opportunity here with the run in the FL Series, in the Sports Car Championship Series, and had a nice finish there in race 1. As it looks like the cleanup, nice job there by the crew. And we should be set to go back to green, I would think, as early as the next time by. The field is out of turn 5C. They head up the Andretti straightaway, but the lights are still on the safety car. We'll see whether or not he gets the indication to turn them off and head from pit road. So it'll be either this next lap or the following one. We'll be set to go back to green.
And we can tell you, too, an update from pit lane. Richard Boak is back down and away. He did have a flat tire from contact in turn number 1 with Justin Di Benedetto. And there you can see the 84 is 1 lap down to your race leader after being released from pit lane once again. But the field not quite ready to double up this time by, so the pace car stays where it is, and Jack Polito stays on the back bumper, leading the GT4 class. And we mentioned Jack Polito having good momentum coming into this season after picking up a couple class wins in races at the end of 2022 behind the wheel of that very same Ford Mustang GT4 entry. And again, that Mustang built in the Multimatic Motorsports shop. And so you know it is a very, very good race car, and Jack Polito has been polishing his racecraft. And it's different when you get behind the wheel of one of these cars, especially if you've been doing anything else. It's just drives like something completely different. Polito has just been gaining confidence all through the year in 2022. And of course, picking up those class wins and then picking up where he left off here in 2023, winning race number 1. Demi Chalkas, as you mentioned, in the 34, a 2020 Mercedes AMG GT4 champion at the local level. Spent the winter, I mentioned, in Europe. It was actually in California she was testing, so did some racing in Europe in the past, but did spend the winter in California testing a GT4 car. So very much at home behind the wheel of the JMF Motorsports AMG GT4 in second spot. So no doubt she's looking forward to a few green flag laps, and that's all these drivers are looking for. It's just some green flag laps and the ability to pass the drivers in front of them. And Mark Lafleur in the number 3, his very first season in a GT4 car here in the FEL Motorsports Sports Car Championship Canada Series presented by Michelin. And that's a really interesting story too. Mark Lafleur got into racing only a few years ago, racing a BMW M3 in the GT3 regional levels. He won the Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago, and then he won championship last year and decided he's just going to keep moving up the ladder, and that's where he finds himself now, behind the wheel of this GT4, the AMG GT4, with riding strikers on board. But Lafleur is an interesting guy. He's an author, motivational speaker. He's an entrepreneur as well, and definitely a fascinating story and a great addition to the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada Series.
Lights have been turned off on that Chevrolet Camaro safety car as they make their way into the top of the S's. Polito loved that blue paint scheme and the big Mustang graphics at the side of that car. Polito, again, another one of those drivers before getting into GT4 competition, running in the F1600s as they're about to come off of turn number 10. Demi Chalkas tucked right up under that rear spoiler, and she'll pull up alongside as they get the green flag and charge down into turn 1. Demi Chalkas trying to grab the lead, but Polito from the outside will go into that lead position, about 3-4 car lengths back to Chalkas in second, and then it looks like Dean Baker has moved up into third.
Now Baker in the 52 in the TCR class car gets around the number 3 of Lafleur, but for how much longer? LP Montour in the number 29, the Kamloops Foods Volkswagen Golf, was taking a look on the inside of turn number 3. I thought he was going to try and stick a pass down low, but he decided better of it and backed off just a little bit. But he has been all over the back of the 52 of Dean Baker. He's filling the mirrors as they work through turn number 5. This will be a key spot, trying to get that drive off of 5 and down the Andretti straightaway, where he can potentially get a draft and a passing opportunity into turn number 8. Still, Jack Polito is your overall race leader. Demi Chalkas is sitting second overall, and this is a battle for the TCR race lead, third overall, currently held by Dean Baker in the 52, given chase by the number 29 of LP Montour.
Looks like the 66 there of Gary Kwok is the driver, has moved up a couple of positions here into 5th overall and 3rd in TCR as they work down the start-finish straightaway to complete what is lap number 7. Dean Baker in 3rd, LP Montour 29, 4th, Gary Kwok 66 indeed has moved up there into 5th. Connor Luttrell 80 in 6th. 7th is 48 Ron Tomlinson. 8th is 55 Tom Kwok. Marco Cerrone in the number 82 Audi runs in 9th, and Quinn Luttrell in car number 86 rounds out your top 10.
Both the Trells having issues in race number 1, so they're looking for a good run here in race number 2. And that number 48 of Ron Tomlinson also had a very frustrating first outing of the day behind the wheel of that Audi after getting involved in an early skirmish on lap number 1. There is a car down pit lane. I believe it's Olivier Montour. Yes, it is. The sister car to LP Montour. So that's the 45. LP Montour is the 29, continues at the front of the field, but Olivier Montour in the 45 down pit lane, and it looks like the crew taking a look under the hood automatically on that one, so they know what's up already after Olivier obviously radioed back to them to say that he was having some issues. LP Montour has now dropped back just a little bit in that fight with the 52 of Dean Baker. So Baker able to settle things down and start clicking off some pretty quick laps. Baker is chasing Demi Chalkis, and those two cars aren't very far off each other as far as lap times, and really Jack Polito's right in that ballpark as well. So the overall race lead is still up for grabs, very much so, as we take a look back to some of the TCA cars. And that is the leader in class of Trevor Hill.
Yeah, that Tooth Autosport car of Trevor Hill right now running 13th overall, but he is your leader in TCA. And then a little bit further back, Megan Tomlinson, 38. Young lady running 15th overall, second in TCA.
Yeah, that's Tomlinson there, just ahead of Jonathan Young and Eric Kuhn. So those three TCA cars are trailing your class leader, Trevor Hill, by a little bit, but they're having a great battle on their own as the track conditions, and we should mention, they continue to dry. You look at the spray off the tires of these cars, not necessarily as pronounced as it once was earlier on in this race. So that's good news for these cars, and you'll see the lap times continue to come down as the track continues to dry, and the drivers get a little bit more confidence.
Working lap number 9, Jack Polito's lead over Demi Chalkis, about 3 seconds. Chalkis has got her rearview mirrors filled with that Dean Baker number 52 car, who is your leader in TCR. LP Montour, car number 29, the Volkswagen in 4th, and Gary Kwok, who's had a solid run here in that Audi, car number 66, rounding out your top 5.
Word from the pits, the 45 of Olivier Montour just down on power. The crew not sure why, but they decided to pull it in, see if they can fix that problem, and it was a couple stops for the 84 of Richard Boak, which is why he had to come down pit lane after cutting down that initial tire. They didn't have a spare rain tire at the ready, so they had to put on a slick for a couple laps and then get another rain tire and then go back in pit lane and jam that on. But during that process, he did lose a lap to your race leaders in the 84. But here's a good look at the 48 of Ron Tomlinson, up 2 spots from where he started earlier on today. The biggest mover so far is the number 66 of Gary Kwok. He is up 5 spots from where he started, currently running in the top 5 overall, 3rd in class in the TCR.
Looking at the run up the Andretti straightaway, Polito stretching that lead out here to just about 3.5 seconds over Demi Chalkis. And indeed, that 45 car of Montour, Olivier Montour, has gone back to the paddock as we work lap number 10 next time by. We're past halfway, about 19 minutes remaining, and Polito has led each one of the laps here. Chalkis now feeling the pressure from Dean Baker and that TCR car as they work down across the line under the Michelin Bridge and into turn 1.
LP Montour has dropped back just a little bit, and there you can see the 66 of Gary Kwok, who is fallen back even further. So Kwok is about 6.2 seconds back of the 29 of LP Montour. In the 2nd and 3rd spot, Dean Baker is less than a second behind Demi Chalkis for 2nd overall. So that's a TCR versus a GT4 battle. So Baker can easily just sit where he is right now, but he'll want to continue pushing, because as soon as you start letting up, that's when the driver behind starts gaining momentum and closing the gap, and it won't be too long before you would have LP Montour right on your back bumper. But good look there at the new look 66 of Gary Kwok and Ron Tomlinson in the 48 just in behind. But this is your top 3 overall. You can see Jack Polito, and the lead he has, which is just over 3 seconds. The last time they crossed the stripe over the 34 of Demi Chalkas, and then the 52 of Dean Baker. So really, second and third overall is still very much up for grabs at this point.
Demi Chalkas coming through turn number 9, trying to close that gap here on the race leader, Jack Polito. And here's a side-by-side battle up over the top of the Andretti straightaway into turn number 8. And almost some contact there. The 82 Marco Cerrone having a run here with the 80 car of Connor Attrell. That is the battle for 7th and 8th on the racetrack between those two drivers. That is 5th and 6th, I believe, among the TCR class cars.
Yeah, but here comes Attrell back on the outside, so Cerrone will put that Martella Motorsport entry down on the regular racing line. He'll drift out a little bit wide. Attrell in the Elantra R, or N, I should say, type N, the Hyundai entry, as we have a car off, and it's Megan Tomlinson up in turn number 5. It looks like that car just went straight into the gravel trap into turn number 5. So the 38 is beached at this point in the TCA class. The good news, it doesn't appear as though she hit anything, so no damage that we can see, as the 84 of Richard Boak down pit lane again. So it looks like that issue is more than just a flat tire as they take a look at the left front corner of that Audi RS3.
Megan Tomlinson had been running 15th overall, 3rd in the TCA class, but looks like she just slid off there going uphill into turn 5A, as the race leader on the start-finish straightaway has already lapped up into the tail end of the field. Demi Chalkas right there, and we'll go to the full course yellow because Tomlinson's car is parked down at Moss Corner, not in a good position.
Yeah, as they passed the flag stand, I was just watching and waiting to see if that full course caution was going to come out, and it does just after the leaders went past the start-finish line. So they'll get radio communication and obviously see all the marshals around this facility indicating that it is a full course caution for the second time with just over 25 minutes completed in this 40-minute timed race. And, you know, give Megan Tomlinson all the credit. She is trying everything to get that car out of the gravel trap, and unfortunately, those front tires of that Honda Civic just still spinning in that gravel trap. So the gravel trap did exactly what it needs to do. That's what it's there for. If a car runs off the track, you don't want it hitting the tire wall. You don't want it hitting a concrete wall. But unfortunately, sometimes it does get you caught up, and this time it bit the number 38, Megan Tomlinson.
Looking at Mark LaFleur, who is running 12th overall, 3rd in GT4, as he continues to work his way on around. Trevor Hill is your leader in TCA. Jonathan Young in car number 8 is 2nd. And with Megan Tomlinson, who had been 3rd in the TCA class, running off there at Moss Corner, it'll be Eric Coons in car number 35 or 25 who will take over that 3rd place spot in the class. We've got a number of retirees here this afternoon, including the 37 of Ed Colleen, who is on the pit road, along with Olivier Montour. That car's gone back to the paddock, so hopefully they can make those repairs and get back out here tomorrow afternoon for their 3rd and final race of the weekend. So if Demi Chalkas is going to take a run here at the win, this full course yellow will give her that opportunity. We've got a total of 13 laps completed, and Polito continues to circulate here. Demi Chalkas, looking at their lap times, the fastest lap of the race does belong to Jack Polito, 1:32.035. Chalkas, 1:32.868. So she's going to have to find a little bit more pace. But the racetrack is drying out, and drying out in a big, big hurry here this afternoon after the rain and fog from earlier. Hopefully we've seen the last of that, and here's one of the tow trucks being dispatched down to Moss Corner. So by the time they get this squared away, we're probably not going to have more than about 7 or 8 minutes remaining in the allotted 40 minutes here in race 2.
Good look at your leader in class in the TCA class. That's a brand new class to 2023 here for the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. And definitely an interesting class, and we knew it was going to be a slow start and a build up, but definitely with 4 cars on track, more talk of more cars on track at all the stops and each stop we make in 2023. So there's interest in this class, and it is a great starting point to get involved in sports car racing in this series. A good look at Trevor Hill, one of the founders of Tooth Auto Sports, and giving that car a good run. Top of the timesheets in class all weekend long in practice and in qualifying, and obviously picking up the win in race number 1 and now the lead here in race number 2. If you saw the number 37 of Ed Killeen dive down pit lane just before we went to caution, unfortunately, he has made some contact at some point during this race on the right-hand side. Car not handling great after that, so he decides to err on the side of caution and will park it for the rest of this event. They have a lot of time to fix it before race number 3 on the weekend, and there you can see the beached number 38, Megan Tomlinson, still stuck in the gravel trap in turn number 5, awaiting the tow truck to come by and give a little pull, and that's all it really will take. It's not in there very deep.
So we've got 3 GT4 and 3 of the TCA cars still running out there on the racetrack, and that will give us 9 TCR cars. So 15 of, I believe, as many as 21 that were on the starting grid. But right now on pit road, Ed Killeen, Richard Boak, 84, and the Olivier Montour car. I believe that's actually gone back into the paddock. And of course, the one DNF who was out here did not complete a single lap. Tough break for Justin DiBenedetto, who had an absolutely brilliant drive this morning and taking the TCR win. Hopefully they can get that car repaired, and he'll be back out here tomorrow afternoon to try to win his 2nd race of the weekend.
Not just racing, though. You go from the highs of standing on top of the podium in the morning, and then by the afternoon you're crashed in turn number 1. It's an unfortunate end to this race for the 4 team, because you're right, he didn't put a foot wrong in race number 1. Definitely a very competitive car. They actually came out, did some regional racing just to have the teething issues all figured out with that brand new race car and that team earlier on this year, and you can tell they came out all cylinders firing here in race number 1 today. No doubt they'll be back and strong again tomorrow for race number 2, as the 38 of Megan Tomlinson does get that pull out of the gravel trap. So we'll detach the pull strap from that car and send it out. Unfortunately for Megan Tomlinson, the lap ticker and the time continues to go. So while she's stuck in the gravel trap, she continues to go laps down, and now 4 laps down to your race leader as they pass by once again. So she'll be out, finish the rest of the laps, and gain as much experience and knowledge as she can behind the wheel of a brand new race car, brand new series here in 2023, that new Honda Civic. And there she goes in turn number 5. Car fires up, no problem. And again, the cleanup is going to be fairly swift, because there's not even a lot of gravel down on the racetrack in turn number 5. It was just a matter of dislodging that car, and you couldn't leave it where it was, because if a car went in spinning, it would create a pretty big problem.
Well, it looks like we're going to get about 6 or 7 minutes to the checkered flag. I would think next time by, the Chevrolet Camaro pace car will pull on to pit road, and then it'll be up to Polito and Demi Chalkas to bring the field off of turn 10 to complete the remaining minutes here this afternoon. Dean Baker, your leader in TCR, is 3rd. 29 Louis Philippe Montour 4th, and Gary Kwok doing a great job in that Audi, rounding out your top 5.
Dare I say it, the sun is out. Look at that. Suit decided to join us here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park after what has been a very, very wet day at the racetrack, but we're going to end it under a beautiful, sunny, happy sky here today. So we'll finish up the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. And it's not enough sunshine to give us a dry track to finish things off, so we'll stay on the wet weather Michelin tires, but it'll be very competitive going into turn number 1, can guarantee you that, as we go back to green, which should be in about a lap time after the cleanup has been completed, and the cleanup crew has finished up what they were doing over there in turn number 5.
Again, those drivers, the actual line in some of the corners, as we look over here to turn number 9, there is a dry line starting to form at that portion of the racetrack. Other sections here have not dried out as much, but we'll see whether or not those lights get turned off on that Camaro pace car as it makes its way up the Andretti straightaway. And we come up here on what will probably be just 5 minutes remaining. We're working lap number 16. Polito, your leader in the GT Ford, Polito Ford Mustang, Demi Chalkas, car number 44, the Mercedes AMG, Dean Baker 52, the 29 of Luis Philippe Montour, 66 Gary Kwok with a solid run here this afternoon in 5th.
So just checking as they work their way through turn number 8 and into turn number 9. I still see the quarter marshal with double yellow flags, so it appears as though they will do. Nope, they're not going to. The pace car pulls off and down pit lane, so we will be going back to green on the front straightaway. And once again, Demi Chalkas tucks right up in behind that Ford Mustang and Jack Polito as they make their way down into turn number 1. And they will remain single file. LP Montour had a great jump there in the 4th position and really pressured Dean Baker for 2nd, but they too will stay in those positions through turn number 2.
Jack Polito opening up about 10 car lengths here on Demi Chalkas. Chalkas took a look on the inside going down into turn number 1. She gets a little bit offline, and then the 48 of Tomlinson. He is all over the racetrack. Not sure if he's just burned up those wet rain tires, but as the track continues to dry out, those tires are going to get a little bit challenging as we see that line up through Moss Corner really continuing to dry out in a hurry. We've got less than 5 minutes to go.
Well, they are a softer compound intended to stick to the slippery track that is soaking wet in spots still. You can see drivers get a little bit offline and they hit a puddle, and you can see the splashes come up. But as you make your way down the Andretti straightaway, very much a dry line opening up, but not when you're side by side. Cerrone and the 80 of Atrell will go side by side into turn number 8 and give the position to Cerrone in the number 82.
Cerrone has had a battle going on here for several laps now with Atrell. They've been back and forth, and those drivers taking completely different lines. And Connor Atrell into the back of Cerrone. He gives him a bit of a tap as they run down into turn number 1, and Cerrone will hold on to the position.
Cerrone has a little bit of the body damage flapping on the back corner, the left rear corner of the number 82 Audi. And we don't know when that contact happened, just noticing it now in this battle with the 80 of Connor Atrell. I don't believe it is from the Hyundai Elantra end of Connor Atrell, but definitely Atrell trying for a way around, looking and testing at this point, seeing where he might be just a little bit better than the veteran driver Marco Cerrone. But now business is picking up a little bit at the front of the field as Tomlinson starts to put the pressure for a final podium spot. Gary Kwok has it in the 66, but Tomlinson is trying for that position as they will go nose to tail down the Andretti straightaway. In a slipstream is Tomlinson. Looking at the front though, Chalkus has closed the gap on Jack Polito, and Chalkus taking a look on the inside of turn number 8 for the race lead. Not enough there.
That is the 52, the TCR car of Baker, who has moved up in the second. Chalkus shuffled back in the third. She's still running second in GT4. Jack Polito on the start-finish straightaway. We've got just about 2 minutes remaining, and now the sun really starting to dry up this racetrack in a big hurry. There's the white last lap flag is out. Jack Polito looking to bring that Ford Mustang home in the win here as Chalkus shuffled back in the third. Baker had his fastest lap of the race there on lap 18, 1:32 and change. I don't think he is close enough to Polito that he's going to have a shot here at the overall win. And here's that battle between Gary Kwok and that number 48 car of Ron Tomlinson. They're a half a car length apart, right up under his rear wing, and they'll go side by side for that final podium spot in TCR.
The white flag really ratchets up the intensity as Tomlinson and Kwok will go side by side through turn number 4. Tomlinson is in, and now Kwok is off and in the tire wall. In turn number 5, a big hit on the front end of that Audi RS3. Through the gravel trap and into the tire wall, actually lifted up the front tires. This is all in turn number 5A as he went into the turn side by side with the 48 of Ron Tomlinson, and unfortunately went to apply the brakes, and it looks like they just didn't stick as the 22 of Jack Polito will come through to complete his laps under a full course caution. We did see the white flag, so this will end under a full course caution, a double checkered flag. Polito will take the win. Dean Baker, the win in the TCR class, second overall after getting around Demi Chalkus. LP Montour will finish in second in TCR. Then Ron Tomlinson rounds out the podium in TCR. And as we look back to the TCA class, it'll be that driver there. You can see the Tooth Autosport number 2 of Trevor Hill making his way through turn number 8 and 9 for the final time. Again, not really at full speed with a full course caution shown on the rest of the track. Hill will come through and pick up the class win in the TCA class. Jonathan Young and Eric Kuntz will round out the podium in TCA.
Well, that was a hard hit for Kwok. They were side by side going in to turn number 5, and there's some damage to that car that they're going to have to repair.
So once again, a big congratulations to your overall race winner, the number 22 of Jack Polito in the Ford Mustang GT4. Dean Baker, second overall in the 52, first in class in the TCR. Demi Chalkus, second in the GT4 class, third overall here today. And then LP Montour and Ron Tomlinson round out the podium in the TCR class. And you look back down to the TCA group, and Trevor Hill, Jonathan Young, and Eric Kuntz will finish on the podium. And the podium presentation brought to you by Braden Motorsport, the supplier of Michelin tires to the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. Once again, great race here this afternoon. We'll have another one. How about that? Coming up tomorrow, the M-Zone Radical Cup Canada will be on track at 11:05, and then you will see another edition of the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin at 3:20 tomorrow afternoon. But we had a good one here today as the track was drying. Tomorrow should be even better under dry conditions. Expecting beautiful sunshine and dry conditions, but there's still one more race to come here today, and this one should be a dandy as well.
Well, indeed, the drivers in the Super Production Challenge. Would like to thank all of the drivers in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada Series for drying out the racetrack with a little help from Mother Nature. As we look off to the west, though, may not want to speak too soon. There are a couple of dark rain clouds just sitting to the west of the racetrack, but it has dried out here in a big hurry as we go to our final race of the day. 30 minutes, race number 2 for Super Production Challenge. They'll have their third race out here tomorrow morning, scheduled for 10:15, but again with the NASCAR Pinty Series having a